Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, so let's get right to what everyone is talking about. Today on the show, we are diving into the New York City luxury condo market, a market in flux like never before. Luxury in the 21st century isn't just about size or location anymore. Buyers are looking for wellness-focused amenities, cutting-edge technology, privacy, and sustainable design. With low inventory and a new wave of thoughtfully designed developments, the high-end market is being reshaped to offer experience, lifestyle, and long-term value alongside stunning architecture. Today, we will break down what is driving these changes and what it really means to live luxuriously in modern Manhattan. And today, my guest is Peter Zaitzeff. He is the polished, high-powered sales director for new development at SERHANT and one of the firm's most influential agents, a lifelong New Yorker based in Tribeca. Peter has built a stellar reputation in luxury real estate, having closed more than $4.8 billion in over 500 deals. Wow. And he is here on set with me today to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate. So let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, we're back, everybody. And so this, to me, is going to be a very exciting show for a bunch of reasons. We have Peter Zaitzeff back. As you heard in the introduction, he's quite the star in New York City real estate here in our industry. And we're going to talk about a reality show called Owning Manhattan that he's also starring in this season. We're going to get to that in our next block. But, you know, I just love it when we have people of what I call substance coming on the show, have a lot to talk about, but who are also very accomplished, okay? Because, you know, we've got a lot of, as I say all the time, especially when I'm teaching, a lot of banana heads in this town who you don't even want to know their names anymore, and you don't even want to deal with anymore, because I call them banana heads because we're on the air. If we're not on the air, we call them something else. Anyway, that's not the case here today.
We gotta be PC.
Peter, great to see you.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure to see you. So how would you describe the current market place today where luxury condos are concerned? I know you do a lot of new development, a lot of new luxury condos. Are you seeing more buyers, fewer listings, or all of the above?
Yeah, more buyers, fewer listings. I don't think it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. We're sort of in this in-between, you know, and that has to do with a lot of factors, given rates. And then the biggest thing that I'm seeing is inventory is going lower and lower and lower. So there is currently, in new development, as it's concerned, luxury, there is currently 3,900 units available and in inventory that is existing.
Right.
In the pipeline, there is another 1,900 units proposed between now and the end of 2027.
Now, just explain to the audience, so when you say 3,900, sitting there.
That's
sold.
an inventory not sold yet. So that's either on the market or what developers are holding back, right? So that's everything that there is, 3,900. There's another 1,900 proposed between now and 2027.
Right.
On a given quarter, we sell between 600 and 625 units per quarter. So if you do the math,
that's
right,
amazing.
Between now and the end of 2027, we'll have something between 1,300 and 1,500 units left between now and 2027, which might as well be zero. We've been doing this for so long. We've had moments back in 2015, 2016, where I think there was 10,000 units available. And we were like, what are we going to do with all this inventory? How is it going to get absorbed?
I remember those days. I was selling new development, and what's the absorption rate, and how quickly can we sell? And developers, you know, sitting on your shoulder all the time saying, hey,
right,
how many contracts did you get out today? Right. Well, not really, not a lot.
So I think what's happening now is the smart money, the people that are starting to understand this, and I don't think this has been talked about in the market that much, but I looked at the numbers a few months ago and I was like, wow, this is going to become a real crisis for us. Yeah. The smart money is buying. And you certainly have seen that over the past, you know, we had an election. People were worried about a new mayor, you know, but if anything, I've seen an uptick in new development selling. If you look at the Olshan report, right, over the past 4 weeks, I think we've had our best 4 weeks in probably the previous 10 years.
That's contract signed over $4 million.
Correct.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that's something that I've like always since the beginning. I remember working with Rafael De Niro, and he was like, you need to read the Olshan report. So I can read the Wall Street Journal, I can read the New York Times, but the Olshan report
is our Bible.
It's our Bible.
Yeah.
Because it tells you at a granular level what the market is doing week by week. Yeah. And I know the numbers on average by now, having done this for 15 years, what a shitty market is, what a steady market is, what a good market is, and what a ballistic market is. And signing 40 contracts per week over the past 4 weeks is a really strong indicator of the luxury market.
It's amazing. So developers face, I believe, the same issues that buyers face, and that's interest rates, right? Because not every developer, rather, can self-finance their own building. So they've got to go out to financial institutions or private, investors, whatever. So how are they getting over that hump, in your opinion, with not, wanting to pay the higher payments back? Because it takes a while sometimes to sell a building. As you just indicated, there are 3,900, units just sitting there waiting to be sold. So developers get a little, itchy with having to pay higher premiums or higher, monthly payments. What are they thinking? How do they think that they can solve the problem, or can they?
I think that money has started, like money was very tight, especially when interest rates were at 6-7%, right? But it's starting to free up. So I think we're seeing that happen, at least on the commercial side. And so developers are now starting to come back in and see this inventory deficit, and they're starting to look at ways that they can convert. They have a lot of office to resi conversion conversations with developers now, which
back on the block, because that was kind of silenced.
That was silenced for a while because the commercial buildings don't make for great resi buildings, as we know. So like when you have developers looking for that, that the market is starting to turn around, right?
Yeah, and also there's not a lot of land, to build brand new,
exactly.
Unless you're going to throw something down and then start again.
There's zero land.
Zero land. The
smart developers right now are looking to purchase either office to resi or find land that they can convert and do projects on, because they know that the inventory shortage is coming and it's going to be a real problem at the end of 2027.
What new development trends or do you see shaping the high-end market? What are developers who are planning, their next step or actively engaged in a current project? What kind of trends are they following or hearing about out there that the higher-end buyer is looking for? Anything different than we've had in the past? Anything new coming up?
Yeah.
What are some of the trends that may be happening?
So I think wellness, like especially COVID, taught us a lot, right? And it's like we gotta live healthy, we gotta be healthy, and so the adaptation or the cold plunges, right? So every building now wants to do a cold plunge. They want to have a wellness factor. I don't know.
That still freaks me out. Cold plunges. I'm like, okay, whatever. I get it, but I hear you.
Or steam saunas are huge. Yeah. Having a gym, like even when it's a smaller building, I'm doing something on Walker Street right now. Like it's essential that we have a gym, and then we put in a steam sauna. Even though our amenities package is probably 2,000 square feet, so very small, but you wanted it to cater towards wellness. Right. And that's also a great example of what buyers are looking for, because the space at that building, the size and scale in luxury is key. Because for so long, we've been building smaller and smaller bedrooms without closets, like 4 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, sometimes 5 baths. It's like, what are you guys going to do with all of these baths? And that needs to shift into our more a gracious luxury layout, which I see as living space. Your kitchen.
You're spot right on with that. Spot right on. Years ago, I used to say to developers, what are you doing with all these bedrooms?
Right.
Not a lot of closets, or in some cases too many closets. But what about the living space?
Living space.
You need living space.
Right.
Right? Especially for families.
Yeah.
You go in your bedroom to sleep.
Yeah.
Children especially.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm working with a high-end client right now, call it up to 30 million, right? She's like, I spend 90% of my time in the kitchen and living room. So like that space needs to be grand, right? Because my kids are there, I'm cooking.
Correct.
That's the space that I'm in. That's the space that I'm present most of the
100%.
time. So those are the spaces. I think the trend will continue that way or should continue that way. And we need to advise developers on that because it's not the bedrooms. It's not the, it's not the bathrooms.
It isn't, or the hallways that, that really take up square foot numbers, but don't really mean anything.
Right.
But living room, and in my home, the same thing. I spend the time in the kitchen because I like to cook, and I spend the time in the living room because I'm doing everything else.
Right.
My computer's in there. I mean, whatever.
Right.
So this is where people want to spend time, and especially when you have children.
Right.
Aside from the wellness factor, what about, smart home technology and sustainability? I mean, are these things that developers are keeping in the back of their mind when they're planning, again, current stuff or future projects coming out?
Yeah, and I think that sustainability is something that has been big since I started. I remember at 150 Charles, we were going for LEED Platinum. I think we eventually got LEED Gold, but it's always been it's always been a factor that helps buyers, and I think is a good thing because we want to stay conscious of the environment and what we're doing to the environment in these buildings. So it's certainly a positive thing that we need to keep at the forefront, I would say.
In your opinion, and I've debated the number, and we talk about the Olsham report, which is kind of near and dear to all of our hearts, and I can never go a Monday without reading it and absorbing it.
Right.
But in the 21st century, what does the term luxury really, really mean in New York City real estate? How has it changed? Like, for example, when I say numbers, I debate sometimes. Like people say, well, I remember when luxury was $2 and $3 million and above.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now that's, a one bedroom or a studio or whatever. 4 million, 5 million, 10 million, the number is kind of debatable.
Right.
Is it only about the number or the high number, or is it about all the other things that you talked about that defines really what the new term luxury means today?
No, I think and I might get a little abstract here, but I think that luxury is not defined by a number of bedrooms, the apartment itself. I think the luxury that people gravitate towards is I want to live by my kids. I want to be close to them, right? Or again, the living space that I have, the location that I'm in. So it's become more centric around what the intangibles are rather than the tangibles, which is the apartment, right? They need to be people will often spend more money. I've seen higher, overpaying for clients that want to be close to their kids. And I've seen this as a constant example in the West Village, working with another client right now where he's like, I don't want my son to move uptown because I want him close to where I live in the West Village, right? They want to stay close to those things that are near and dear to their heart. Which is not necessarily having a 3,000 square foot place on the Upper East Side. They'd rather sacrifice having a 2,000 square foot place downtown where they can be close to the amenities and the family that they grew up with.
How are buyers, another very good point. So how are buyers kind of, making the decision, younger children who are still in school? We all know that in this town, it's all about where the schools are, and I need to move to the Upper East or the Upper West.
Right.
Tribeca or wherever it may be to get the good schools. How is that really kind of pushing buyers to make decisions in neighborhoods? Are they still focused on the schools, wanting to be close to where their kids have to go, wanting to be close to their kids?
Yes.
Or not?
Yes, I feel like they are. They always have been. I remember, so my kids are now 10 and 12, for instance, right? And we sent them to preschool downtown. And 50% of Jack's class, for instance, ended up sending their kids to the Upper East Side schools, whether it's Brearley, Chapin, St. Bernard's, one of these schools. They would send them up there. They were living downtown at the time. They did the commute for 1 year. I think 99.9% of those parents ended up moving to the Upper East Side. This was 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, like, I'm working with newer buyers, first-time home buyers that they're recently married, haven't had kids yet, where I'm telling them, listen, this is not your forever home. You can live here for 5 years and like you'll make a great investment on it, guaranteed, and then you could either sell it if you want for a profit and or rent it out and use it as an investment as a long-term investment. And so you don't need to move right now. You can make that decision when your kids are 6, 7 and going into middle school.
100%. And I use the same term that, this is not your forever home.
Right.
I think sometimes though, when buyers buy, especially for the first time,
right,
at whatever price point, they think, this is going to be my forever home. No. Like our parents, they bought a house. We lived in our house for 30 years.
Right.
My parents lived in their house for 30 years, right? And that's just what it is.
Right.
We all moved out and they were still there.
Right.
And that was the mentality. It's like, gotta go. Whatever. Yeah. But I mean, that's not how it works in New York City.
No.
And I get the proximity to school. I get the proximity to a lot of, thing.
Right.
Look, now, and I think we talked about this the last time you were on the show, with the advent of all these car services, the Ubers and the Lyfts and the Empowers and the whatevers, I mean, you don't really need to be necessarily so close to a train station, subway station, because you can get to where you need to go.
Right.
Are these shifts, though, in buyer mentality affecting investment strategies for the luxury buyer, the luxury investor buyer, like when they come into town, whether they're foreign or whether they're domestic? Are they thinking about these things? The newer end, higher end rather of luxury, or what it all means? Or are they just kind of, I got to park money and that's that?
I think I'm still seeing I got to park money, which is unfortunate because I don't think that foreign investors have ever really understood New York in a granular level. And I think it's I think it's sort of a shame because you see a lot of them park their money on 57th Street, right? And they end up losing $5, $10, $15, $20 million on their apartments. Yeah. But if they understood the city at a granular level where neighborhoods really affect the investment potential, then you would see a lot more downtown. Yeah. You would see a lot more in Tribeca, West Village. You would see a lot more on the Upper East. You would see more on the Upper West. You just traditionally, we haven't seen it. And I don't know why they don't. They look at New York, they see the postcard of Central Park, right? And they're like, that's New York. I don't know any other neighborhood. Every other neighborhood is shitty. And it's a shame.
True. It's very true. And it is a shame because they don't really know. And I often think to myself, if you would just listen to the coaches and the counselors and the real estate professionals to help you, understand where you should be or why. Yeah. The why is the most important thing. All right, listen, we're going to take a break. There's so much more with Peter coming up. We're going to talk a little more about luxury and a lot more about owning Manhattan right after these messages. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So more with Peter. What do you think, Peter, the luxury market in New York is going to look like, say, 5 years from now? I'm in the business 23 years, and I have seen luxury and, regular, markets just move so differently and sway so, profoundly sometimes. Yeah. Where do you see as we define luxury today, where do you see that going in the next 5 years? Same path, different path? Unknown?
I think the biggest driving force behind that is going to be the scarcity issue. And so that will be the driving force. I think that luxury will continue to do well. It's just going to be harder and harder to find the right property because we're locked in. So the buyers that bought in 2021 when rates were at 2-3% are locked into those rates. So they have no desire to sell.
That's
right?
the thing, yeah.
And then no new inventory coming on. There's just going to continue to be that sort of lack of inventory and scarcity, which will drive prices up. And I think that we'll continue to see that. And then we'll also enter into the new normal of like rates are never going to be at 2 or 3%, but they'll come down to like low 5s, maybe high 4s, which will be great. And then the capital will start freeing up again in the next, 1 to 2 years. And then 5 years from now, it's anybody's guess. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with what you just said. And what I tell buyers all the time is, look, the rates today, where they are, and I say it, in all honesty, they're pretty normal.
Right.
When I first bought, and I tell this almost every week on the show, my first interest rate when I bought a condo, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, was 12%.
Yeah.
And that had been down from 17%.
Right.
And my dad said to me, run, do it.
Right.
Because you don't want to go back to 17.
Right.
And what I saw was the 12 went down to 10 and 10 went down to 8, the 10 went down to whatever.
Right.
By the time I sold that and I bought a co-op on the Upper East Side, it was 7% fixed for 30 years.
Right.
And I thought, okay, my dad was right. It's going to, slowly come down.
Right.
And for years, Peter, as you know, these numbers were normal.
Right.
6s, 7, high 5s, whatever. But what happens in our industry here, especially in New York City, buyers get stuck on purchase prices used to be, or interest rates used to be, and they still want that.
Right.
And I'm talking to a seller right now about a 2-bedroom apartment. I know what they paid for it. They want a little more than what they paid for it 7 years ago.
Yep.
And I keep telling them, you're not going to get that.
Right.
I'm so sorry, but that's not what the market commands right now. You're just not going to get that. Now, it's a matter of, are they going to choose to do it or not? And then they say, well, I have a 4-point-something% mortgage because we refinanced whatever when the rates really went down.
Right.
And so if I sell that, I'm going to go and get something at 6 or 6+%.
Right.
Vince, help me justify this.
Right.
So here I am on the spreadsheet, trying to figure out whatever. You can justify it. It can make sense. As you said earlier, it's not going to be your forever home.
Right.
And if rates do go down, you could refinance and change again.
Right.
But it's such a fluid moving marketplace that it's really kind of hard.
You date the rate. Marry the home.
Correct. Well, you know what? It's very true.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about emerging neighborhoods with this new luxury push, with this new goal of luxury. Are there any particular neighborhoods in Manhattan that make more sense for either the investor or the person who lives here full time and wants to, buy an apartment?
Yeah, I think like affordability comes into play here, right? So if you can afford Tribeca, or you can afford West Village, or you can afford Chelsea, which is all of these areas have become exponentially more and more expensive. That's great. But if you can't, like Lower East Side has transformed over the last several years.
Correct.
East Village has also transformed over the last several years. Flatiron, right? It used to be only smoke shops and electronic shops.
Look at what's happening with the Flatiron building.
Right.
Wow.
Flatiron building. I worked on 10 Madison Square West when it was it's like when the area started to come up, and you look at those areas now with all the hotel development, the retail, the restaurants, the bars, and then the condos. I think those are emerging markets that have really started to come full form.
Yeah. Downtown seems to me, and always has been, the place that most people want to be in. Right. Pre-children, with children, whatever, after children.
Right.
Downtown is just spectacular.
Downtown's great. And again, like at 150 Charles too, I saw this a lot. Like you had a lot of clients that bought at 150 Charles because they wanted to move there from the Upper East Side, right? So you had a dynamic shift back in 2012 where buyers from the Upper East Side were buying downtown. Yeah. Then after COVID, you saw a lot of Upper East Side development that did really well, like Neftali, like 77th, 83rd Street, the Benson, the Belmont, etc., where clients were like, you know what, I want the space and I want to be close to the park, right? And I think now you're having a shift again downtown where you're seeing like buildings like 80 Clarkson, which are getting 10,000 a foot for, you know, full floor apartments, which you only saw those numbers.
He did say 10,000 a foot, people. So let's just keep that in mind. No, but you're right. I mean, go ahead.
You would only see those numbers traditionally on Central Park South or the Upper East Side previous to the last 3 years, right?
And there are people willing to pay that.
There are people willing to pay that.
Right. Right.
Because they want to be downtown.
Correct. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit before we change gears here about 200 Amsterdam. Are you guys finished there, not finished there?
So we're close to being finished. We had 20, when we took over the project, we had 20 some odd units left to sell. Right. We've sold through most of the inventory. We have basically 2 apartments right now.
You got beautiful apartments over there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So Penthouse 2, which we were very, very close on a deal the other day. And probably not going through. And then we have 1 other full floor unit on 48. And then we have 2 white boxes, which we're deciding what we need to do with those. We'll probably have to build them out. But we're essentially sold out. We do have some higher ticket units left there, but that building has done tremendously well when you consider it in the conversation with 50 West 66th Street, Central Park Tower, 111 West 57th, and then 220. We've done probably the best next to 220.
Yeah. No, it's a phenomenal building. I've been there many, many, many times, and you know, the apartments are just grand. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful.
So speaking of which, like, that's what people want. They want the grand open style space where you have living, dining, family together.
I mean, somebody said to me recently, do you think, Vince, that we're ever going to get back to, you know, the old floor plan, meaning, you know, closed kitchens? And
I'm classic like 6 and 7.
Exactly. And I'm like, no. Right. And why would we do that?
Right.
As we just keep saying, open. Family. You're cooking. You're working in the kitchen. The children, you know, the family. They're all in the living room. It's like, come on. You know, why would you want to go back to?
Cooking has become the new entertainment.
Yes, it has. And everybody around you when you're cooking. Right. Everybody has to watch and see what you're doing.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, stand over there. You know,
it's very therapeutic. I love cooking. I have an open kitchen, and I sit there for 3 hours. My kids sit down for 10 seconds to eat, but I was like, I'm cooking all night for them.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm a big cooker. Okay, so the moment that I've been waiting for, the reality show on Netflix called Owning Manhattan. And Peter, this season 2, which starts on December 5th. So 3 days from today. So if you're catching up on this after, today is Tuesday. The show drops on the 5th this week. And Peter is in season 2. You are often represented as the steadier, higher expertise force, less bombastic than some TV real estate professionals, but with gravitas, discipline, and long-term vision. Yeah. And when I read that from your PR person, I said, yeah, I can see him. That description fits you. Explain what you mean, what we mean by that, as it relates to you.
As it relates to me. So I entered this, this is my first time really on reality TV or doing a real estate show. I did $1 Million Listing once back in the day when we were selling 111 Murray, and I did 1 episode. But this is my first time being like a real character on a show.
Correct.
But for the most part, I've been working in this business for 15 years, right? So I didn't start my career by being on a show.
Correct.
So most of the other people on our show or previous shows, they're really starting their careers on the show. So they have something to prove, right? I've done this for 15 years at a really, really high level. And so I don't have as much or anything to prove on the show to bring something to the table that is interesting for viewers. You know, I can show them what I've done over the last 15 years and why I'm unique and why I'm different to people getting involved in drama, et cetera, et cetera. Drama does sell and it's great,
And part of our business.
And part of our business. We're
Exactly.
dramatic. I mean, I always tell clients, I'm like, this is 50% analytic and this is 50% emotional, right?
my
No matter
God.
what, no matter how you slice it.
You
right?
say what I'm thinking. I think that all the time. It's so true.
It's so true. And you can't get away from the 50% emotion. And
No.
that's why I think like all the advent of AI and technology, that will never change our business because the emotional aspect and the people aspect that we have never goes away.
It never goes away. But again, you know, this description of you from when I first met you on the show a couple of months ago, I thought you fit that bill. You don't have to be, you know, over dramatic to get a point across or to prove a point or whatever. You can go through your real estate, whatever you need to do in front of camera, and it's you. Yeah. And one of I watch all of these shows, and one of the things I always said is, you know, why overact or overdo or over whatever? And as you say, you know, a lot of that in all of the shows. Yeah. But I think this show has something to really prove out there. But explain to our audience, you know, because a lot of people watch them, but they don't really understand what goes on behind the scenes. Now we know it's led by Ryan Serhant, who was a star in his own right from $1 Million Listing Days, and he's a great guy also, by the way. But
very, very smart.
A very, very smart guy. I love him. But what, you know, how do you do this every day? Because as we were talking before we got on set here, it's like a full-time job. You already have a full-time job, and you also have a family. So this is very time-consuming, which people don't understand. Right.
So, and we talked about this. I started at SERHANT because I came over from Corcoran, right? I started day one. I took over 200 Amsterdam, and then we basically filmed the first episode of season two, episode 1 at 200 Amsterdam. So I was like thrown to the wolves basically with, you know, launching a project and then filming right away. And it was like, I didn't know what to expect. I've launched projects before, and if you know anything, you know about launching projects. These things they take all of your energy just to launch a project. And more. All of your heart, all of your soul, if you're going to ever do it really, really well. Yeah. And that's what you have to give to be successful. And then to add on the show to that was like, I was like, my head was spinning, especially just being like on the first filming, the first scene of the first episode in the second season, and my head was spinning. I was like, how am I going to do this for a year? We ended up filming. Yeah. But eventually...
A year. 8 episodes, okay? A year.
8 episodes, 1 year of filming, because you have to do retakes. You have to go back to things. Sure. They cut a lot of stuff that's not going to make it onto the air. But eventually you get used to it, and your life becomes a new normal, right?
Correct.
And I think Ryan... Like if you look, I've been around Ryan so much. He's done the show and his real estate career for 12 to 15 years, something like that. Yeah. And if you look at Ryan's been able to manage it really, really well.
Very well.
He's pulled in thousands of directions. And it's like, if Ryan can do it, why can't I? You know? So like you buckle up, you get ready, and you know, you just put one foot in front of the other.
You know, I don't say this about a lot of people, but I can really see you. And again, just really getting to know you and you know, here again on the show, you know, I can see that happening because you know, you got to kind of keep it, you know, and Ryan has a great way of just keeping it together. Yeah. Yeah. He's pulled in a zillion different directions all the time, but keeping it together enough for his family. Yeah. And for the business that, you know, he created his own company, which is growing by leaps and bounds, SERHANT, and then also on the show. So you got to kind of figure out, all right, one foot in front of the other. Yeah. And I think we all do that in very busy, you know, life here in real estate. But when you tack on something like that and the thought of, you know, 1 year, how do you prepare, Peter, for, like, you wake up today and you say, okay, you know, we got to shoot today and I'm going to be over here or I'm going to be over there. Plus, I got to figure out how am I going to show my own properties? How am I going to show my own new development stuff? Right. How do you kind of wake up in the morning and say, this is what my day is all about? Or this is what I need to do?
Honestly, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I like look at my phone, I look at my schedule, and I'm like, I'm sort of screaming inside. I'm
Yeah.
screaming inside because I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Right.
But you end up doing it. And I say this to clients too all the time, or anybody that I'm working with, and I run marathons, right? So
You do.
we are constantly, and in life too, right? We don't know what life is going to bring to us at any given point. And this goes for work and my kids and where I'm going to be in 5 years or 10 years. Like, we're running a marathon and we just don't know where the 23rd mile is. But you have to keep going forward.
Right.
And so that's what drives me.
Ryan said something in the research I was doing, for the start of season 2, this being like the toughest real estate market that he's been aware of since he's in the business, 12, 15, 16 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Also the most competitive, and it's kind of like real estate warfare.
Yeah.
How much of this is really going to be injected into the show this season, showing the people out there who are watching, hey, this is New York City real estate, but this is really a tough marketplace, or has gotten tougher through the years. I mean, when he was on $1 Million Listing, we were kind of, rolling through wonderful markets and high markets and whatever.
Yeah.
It's very different today.
Yeah.
For him, for you, for me, for anybody
Yeah.
who, participates daily in this business.
100%. I think it's like, as you said, it's become more and more competitive. There's probably more and more agents out there. What I've been fortunate, and you, I'm sure, have benefited from this, and Ryan certainly has, is that we started our careers 15, 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
And that we've built a book of business where we're able to, and we know what we're doing at this point, right?
Right.
We become experts at it.
Right. That's where we have an advantage.
We have a real advantage, and we have to take advantage of that. But for the young guys starting out, it's really, really hard to get your foot in the door, to get known. But you just have to keep pushing, like I said. And once you break through that barrier, like, I was an intern. I was an unpaid intern for 3 months, and then eventually got a job as a glorified assistant for $50K, right? And I was this is my second career, so I was 28, 29 years old. I had my first kid at that time. Like, making that amount of money was very difficult, but like, I pushed through it.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife at the time, my ex-wife now, but my wife at the time, like, supported me in ways that, I'm very, very grateful for.
Right.
And
it takes a huge support system.
It does.
It really does.
Yeah.
And we have to be grateful for that, which I know you are. And one of the things I always, admire about, successful people in this industry, whether you're on TV show or not, but just our strength.
Yeah.
To get through, as you said before, one foot in front of the other. We get knocked down all the time. We get, crashed into all the time.
Right.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But if you stay focused, and you're a young man, you've got kids, you've got a family, you've got a real estate career.
Yeah.
Aside from all of this, I mean, I complain. I do this show once a week.
Right.
It's like way too much.
Yeah.
On top of everything else.
Right.
If I had to go and get followed around by a camera crew on a regular basis, I'd be like, okay, how are we going to do this? But probably would resort to the same thing you just said, because I think that is the only way you can. We're going to take another quick break. We're coming right back with Peter and Owning Manhattan and a little more on the luxury market. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
We are back. So let me ask you something. How do you prepare for a particular scene? So, the producers say you're going to go into this listing of yours or this apartment of yours, whatever. And do they tell you what they want you to do? Do you prepare because I know a lot of people who watch reality TV say, how do they do all this? How do they know what they should talk about or what they should not talk about, whatever?
Yeah.
What's the prep that goes behind each of the scenes that you film?
Oftentimes you're going into a shoot or a scene and you know what the premise is, right? But you don't know what the other characters are going to do, and you have to adapt to that.
Right.
I would say that, you know, the first scene was difficult because I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
But after filming 4, 5, 6 times, you start to get used to it. It's like anything, you understand, and you get used to the cameras being there. So it took less and less prep as we went, but you definitely know what you're going into, what scene you're shooting, what to expect. And then sometimes when the camera starts rolling, you have to throw that all out the door because you're dealing with a bunch of different personalities. And fortunate for us, as we talked about before, like we often deal with a lot of personalities in the business as itself.
Indeed.
It's just doing it on camera, which takes a little bit of getting used
And you
to.
work with a lot of colleagues too.
Correct.
From SERHANT.
Correct.
So how does that kind of add to the pressure of a scene, or maybe change the pressure of a scene, or your relationship outside of, you know, being on set? Does it or not?
Yeah, I think for me, at least for this first season that I've done, I was thrown to the wolves, as I said, and I had to prove myself. I didn't think that I had to because I came with a background and a pedigree and I've done all of this.
Correct.
But like they were like, who is this guy? I don't know him. And I had to spend a lot of my effort with them to say, like, I'm not a bad guy. Like I'm a friend to you. Like you don't need to compete with me. If you need information from me, I'm going to give you that information freely. That's always who I've been.
Right.
But getting them to believe that and understand that took 6 to 8 months before they were like, hey, you know what? Pete's actually a really nice guy, and he will give the shirt off of his back if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that knowing you a little bit here, but also it's got to be difficult, you know, when another character, so to speak, you know, is doing a scene with you and they don't necessarily really get what you're trying to be sincere and the Peter that everybody knows and loves and whatever, the successful real estate agent. Like I said, when I read that description, I mean, unbelievable.
Right.
Less bombastic, because we all know from some reality shows that there's a lot of, you know, over the top, people getting angry. I very rarely, I think I've gotten angry 2 or 3 times in my whole. I can't see you doing that. Actually,
I can't. See you doing that. So eventually, once they understood me, like I wasn't going to take a shot or a jab, and I wasn't going to play to that. Once they understood it, then they started to understand me and my role, and that I could actually be a benefit to them or help them, you know, because again, I'm ready, willing, and able to do that 110% of the time.
I know several people on that show from season 1 and some personally, but I can so see you. I was a little surprised when I realized that you were in the show for season 2 and delighted actually, but because, you know, I'm getting to know you a little bit and I actually like you. But I think though that you're going to be different. I think you're going to stand out. And when the audience, and please watch, December 5th, when the audience sees you, because I think people who watch reality shows kind of key into certain individuals on a show. Like on $1 Million Listing, Ryan was always one of my favorites. For a whole bunch of reasons, but he just seemed to be like normal and natural and whatever. I love the other two, but he always kind of was like, you know, my favorite. And I'm not just saying that because you work there. It's very true. I've known him for years. But you being different, as I keep saying, from the rest of the cast members there, I think, you know, you're going to stand up. And hopefully cement a spot for season 3.
Exactly.
But I think people are going to like you because you're a very likable person. How do you think about that when you're doing a scene? You try to be, as you said before, just who you are. Do other people maybe provoke you into trying to be different or being argumentative or more dramatic, and you're just like, no?
Yeah, I think that like there's definitely people trying to provoke me into being different, but one of the best things about one of my biggest strengths, I think, is that like I almost have face blindness for people. Like I don't actually have face blindness, but I have face blindness for people.
Yeah.
So when I enter a room, I don't look at anybody differently, no matter what they're buying or if it's
Man after my own heart. I've been saying this for years. They think the same thing.
And so, and like, I'm like, honestly, if somebody came and was like, said something offensive towards me, I would not notice it.
Yeah.
The other person standing to my left or right might
Did
be
you
like,
just hear what he
did
just
you just
said?"
hear what he said? But like, it would go in one ear, out the other, because it's not in my personality to recognize people trying to tear me down or pick me apart. It's just not. And I'd rather just not have to deal with it. So I go on to doing business and being who I am. So it doesn't affect me, which is again, a great personal
It's a
trait
great
that
attribute,
I have.
of course.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about, you are a born and raised New Yorker.
Yeah.
You live in New York City, obviously a successful 15-year career.
Yeah.
How has being a New Yorker helped you on a show like this with great big visibility on Netflix, and so it's global?
Yeah.
How has being a New Yorker helped you acclimate not only to the real estate industry that you talk about on the show, but actually doing the show as well? I mean, you know everything there is to know about New York, as I do.
Yeah.
Is that a help or is it not?
Oh yeah, it's certainly a huge help because I know the block to block in real estate. I know the block to block differences between what West Tribeca, East Tribeca, West Village, the difference between Perry Street and West 12th Street, the difference between Bleecker Street. So like these things that have been ingrained in me since I was a little kid are now extremely helpful. Right. So that on a personal level or on a real estate level with clients, and then going into a show like this, because like I can enter pretty much any environment and then be able to speak about that environment in an eloquent way that is informed. Right.
Right. And not practiced, not rehearsed. It's just coming from what you know, and who you are, and your experience.
Right. And I've been so fortunate. You talked about like the deals that I've done, but I got really lucky at the beginning. And I've worked on probably like, those 500, 600 transactions that I've done, those equate not just the transactions, but what I'm more proud of is all of the work that went into one of those individual transactions.
100%.
And those were probably 5 to 10 showings per transaction, meaning, you're in the thousands of visits with different people. And so I've been fortunate enough to work with and meet so many different people over 15 years that now all of that stuff is second nature to me. Meeting people and speaking to them and being like-minded. I'm able to understand the room pretty quickly.
And that's why I said before, I think, you can stand out in a scene or in multiple scenes because, you come across as being a New Yorker. You have the experience of living here and knowing it and working here in a very personal industry, as I call real estate, because you've done it and you know it. What are some of your highlights on the show so far, this season? I mean, again, you're in every episode. You've worked probably almost every day in a week. Yeah. Are there any highlights that, where you walked away saying, hey, I think that's going to be a good scene, or, well, I don't know how that one's going to translate? Yeah,
so I think that I'm going to see the first episode tonight. I haven't seen it yet. But I think I did really well at Ryan recruiting me. That's at 200 Amsterdam. I did really.
So that's going to be part of the first episode.
That's part of the. That's like in the first 5 minutes.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
can't wait.
So I did a good job there. Ryan and I have a negotiation that I know it's in the trailer, so I know it's going to be in the show. I think that's going to be a real highlight of the whole season. I'm not sure what episode it's in, probably 6 or 7, but I think that was really good too. And
what's interesting here, and I asked the question, and I should have set it up. You don't even know what's going to be in the show, so to speak, because you've done so much.
Yeah.
They cut out so much.
Right.
You've done a whole year of filming, and there's only going to be eight episodes, right? So you don't really know episode to episode. I think that's kind of thrilling. Yeah. Scary. Yeah. Because you're like, did they leave that one in? Did they take one? You might know a little bit, but not a hell of a lot.
Yeah. So like I was on the phone with somebody who had seen some of it. and it was like, oh, in episode 2, you and Ryan are butting heads, right? So I'm like, oh, what was that again? Like where me and Ryan were butting heads, and that makes me like a little apprehensive because, like, as you know, I respect Ryan so much,
Of course.
and you know, butting heads with him on TV will be interesting. So we'll see how that shapes out.
I enjoyed season 1, but now because you're on it, and I mean this sincerely, I cannot wait to check in, and I'm going to binge it as I always do in 1 or 2 nights. But what makes you? I don't want to say what makes you tick, because I know you're very professional and you're very focused. And one of the things I always say about agents who need to be successful or want to be successful is you got to be focused.
Yeah.
And you got to understand what you're doing and where you want to get to.
Yeah.
Has something like owning Manhattan or any reality show ever been on your mind? Like maybe someday in the future, if I have the opportunity, I will do that.
Yeah.
I remember saying, way back when podcasts didn't even exist.
Yeah.
I want to do a radio show about New York real estate. And it took me years to get there.
Right.
But it was kind of in my plan to do it.
Yeah.
Did you think somewhere along the line that, well, maybe, if I have the opportunity, I would say yes? Or would you say, I probably wouldn't say yes?
I have like sort of dabbled in it on and off. I think at one point, the producers for $1 Million Listings, I was interviewing for that. And then I got to like the 2nd or 3rd round. And then they were like, we want B-roll. And I was like, what is B-roll? I didn't know what that even was. And I was like, you know what? I have a family. I have 2 kids. I don't know if I'm ready for my family to be introduced to this reality.
Well, I was going to get to that in a minute, but go ahead.
So I eventually ended up saying like, no, I'm out, whatever. And I think that's when they got Steve Gold for $1 Million Listings.
Gold, of course.
Who was a great addition
Love
to the
Steve.
show.
He's another one.
He was a great guy.
Yeah. We have one of his team members on the show pretty regularly.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so when Ryan started recruiting me, he was like, oh, well, there's an opportunity for you to be on the show. And I was like, you know what? I'm at a stage in life right now where like it makes sense, right? I'm more established. I know what I'm doing. My kids are older. I'm at a life stage where like, I want to diversify myself as an individual and
moving and keep growing.
moving and keep growing. And this was certainly a huge challenge and learning experience for me in terms of my overall personal growth. And so I'm happy that I did it. I'm excited for the show to come out. I'd love to be on season 3.
You will be.
And I think it was...
I'm pretty good at predicting. You will be.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see, your performances in the next 8 episodes. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned you're a dad, you have a lovely wife, beautiful home, you live in New York City.
Yeah.
What is it like to do something like a reality show, Owning Manhattan, when you have to come home and deal with the children, deal with the wife, deal with dinner, deal with whatever, and I don't know what my schedule is going to be from time to time. Are they understanding of it all, or are they kind of like, what's he doing now, or why isn't he here?
Yeah.
It's tough on our schedules, actually.
It's really tough on our schedules. And I think like real estate in general is tough on our schedules.
Correct.
So
we never know when our end time is
We
gonna
never
be.
know when our end time. And our clients often work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. So like when are they available? They're available from 6 to 9, right? And those are the times where we should be home, or they're available on the weekend. That's the only time they're thinking about real estate. So often our schedules are tough. So I've been used to sort of a tough schedule for a long time. Adding in the reality show is another element to that, and another way that I need to manage my schedule and manage my life. I'm fortunate, like, I have some really great people working with me, Jared Friedman and Sam Germano, and now Ollie. So these guys are now helping me with a lot of my stuff. And the goal of this whole thing, we talked about growing my business and all of that. The goal is not necessarily for me to take on more and more and more. The goal is for my team to use this as a platform to expand their business, right? And they should grow. They're the next guys. They're learning.
That will happen. Yeah.
And that's what I want, because I'm obviously at a level where I'm like, in terms of time, I'm pretty tapped out. So I want them to be the next round of successful agents, right?
Do you ever wake up in the morning and say, oh, I don't have to do anything today? Probably in your world, no, not that often.
No.
I cherish those days, which
Yeah.
I don't even get that
Yeah.
often. But I'm like, oh, I don't have to leave
Yeah.
my house today
Yeah.
till like 1 o'clock. Wow.
One of my fondest memories as a kid, and is I came home. My mom asked me, "What did you do today?" Because she would always ask me what I did today, and I was like, "Mom, I lied down on the grass and I looked up at the sky,
Yeah.
and I did absolutely nothing." And those days are few and far between, and they're tough to have. But sometimes, like you need a day.
You do.
Yeah.
Tell me about how do you think it's going to be your wife and your two beautiful boys?
Yeah, ex-wife.
See you doing all this crazy stuff. How do you think they're going to react when you put that television on? Right.
My kids are super duper excited about it.
I'm sure they are, but they haven't seen you on television yet, right? So,
No.
what do you think their reaction is going to be?
I think they're gonna love it. I think they already love it. They've seen the trailer.
They have
a number of times.
Okay.
So they're like gearing up for Friday night, and they're like, "Oh, we're like the little one on the way to school today was like, I can't wait to watch it on Friday."
And they'll
like,
tell all their friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So I think they're excited. I think that hopefully I made them proud. I think I've heard anecdotes of like my character, and I think I did a good job to make them proud.
Well, again, everything that was sent to me
Yeah.
prior to this interview
Yeah.
was, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, that's him. Oh,
Yeah.
I absolutely can see him doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you are who you are.
Yeah.
And this is what is so spectacular. What's the takeaway for you? I mean, obviously you'd like to do season 3 or,
Right.
go on and on,
Yeah.
however long you can.
Yeah.
But what's the takeaway from all this, Peter? You've worked very hard for 15 years or
Yeah.
so. You've gotten to a point where you're very successful with deals and numbers and
Yeah.
new developments or whatever. This is the next level up. In my opinion, I don't know where else anybody can go
Right.
other than just to sustain that and keep that moving.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Or is it like too early to think about what could be
no, I
next?
think about this all the time, and I think the next 10 years of my life, I need to really stay grounded. I need to keep doing what I'm doing. I need to set up one of my kids has special needs, so I need to set up a lot of things in place for him for when I'm not around anymore, and make sure those things are taken care of.
Talk a little bit. I don't want to interrupt you, but talk about the special needs, because you also are very charitable in that. Tell us what that is.
My ex-wife and I co-founded a charity. It's the Kabuki Syndrome Foundation.
Correct.
To date, we've raised around $6 million. We have galas every year. And Walter's a really, really fantastic kid. There was remember getting the diagnosis, and we sat in bed for 2 days, and we're like, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? Because you don't know, right? And what we ended up doing is he got out of bed, and we're like, we're going to make the life for this kid the best it can possibly be. And that's what we did. And meanwhile, he's fucking amazing. He's fucking amazing.
He seems to be.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. And I think the next 10 years, I've got to really set it up that they can be successful and do their thing.
And, I have no doubt about that. You are a treasure. Thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. We're coming right back.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my final thoughts. So the luxury condo market in New York City is evolving faster than ever. Today, luxury isn't just measured in square footage or zip codes. It's about experience, wellness, technology, privacy, and long-term value. Low inventory and a wave of thoughtfully designed new developments are creating opportunities for buyers who want curated, lifestyle-focused living. For anyone navigating this market, the key is understanding that modern luxury is also much more about how you live than where you live, and the smartest investments balance both. And on a programming note, as we talked about in the new season of Owning Manhattan, where my guest Peter today has a recurring role in all 8 episodes, tensions are high and competition is fierce. All of those episodes for season 2 will launch this week, December 5th, streaming only on Netflix. And that's our broadcast today. Thanks to Peter for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Einstein once said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.